Hello, welcome, or welcome back to Heretic Owl Tarot. My name is Liz, and I'll be guiding you on this journey today. And we are at the luteal phase of our menstrual cycle series. By the time these videos come out, it will have been 28 days from the first and last time that I made videos around this series. And I am going to try my best to put these videos out every 28 days because the normal menstrual cycle does follow a 28-day cycle. And so this series is going to mimic that. Now, a couple disclaimers. You do not have to be a menstruating person in order to receive a message from these readings. And also, you don't have to be, if you are a menstruating person, you don't have to be in the luteal phase in order for there to be a message here for you. You certainly can save the videos and come back to them once you're in that particular phase if you track your cycles. Otherwise, we are using the phases of the menstrual cycle and pulling themes from those phases in order to guide these messages. And like I said, we're in the luteal phase, and the themes around the luteal phase are slowing down, turning inward, boundaries as well, crossing T's, dotting I's, checking in also with where we're at in our process and making sure that our intentions, our actions align with our goals, which does take slowing down, checking in, being more observant as well. So, yeah, I mean, let's start pulling some cards. It's been honestly like a beautiful journey through these readings so far. And the major message that has been coming through is returning to our true selves and releasing old programming, old beliefs, old narratives. And so, yeah, I mean, let's just see what comes through. We'll pull a Sacred Cycles Oracle first. And I don't know about you, but like for me, I know exactly when I enter my luteal phase because I'm in the bakery section of the grocery store. I want cake, I want buttercream frosting, I want... don't get me wrong, I have sweets. Like I'll finish my day with a cookie or a chocolate, but that's more habit. I don't crave cake or I don't crave literally just like spoonfuls of frosting. But when I find myself there and when I find myself craving, I'll literally open my period tracking app and sure enough, it'll be like the first day of luteal phase. And then I also know to pull out my Pepsid AC and have Pepsid AC? Is that what? Why does that not sound right? I think it is Pepsid AC. And start popping those bad boys so I don't absolutely lose my mind. Let's see what we have. We have the cervix. And we have return to source. You know what I love is that, and you'll see if you watch the video also, and I hope that you do, but you'll see that in the menstrual cycle video, the uterus came out with the return to source card. So let's get our tarot out. For the luteal phase, boundaries, maybe even too, like where there could potentially be some irritation. What's maybe not working? This one came out first. We have the Knight of Wands, the Devil, the Ace of Cups in the reverse, Four of Pentacles. Let me see if there is one more card. I don't know if that's like me wanting there to be another card. So let me just see if one more comes out. Page of Pentacles and the Ace of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck. I'll move things around like once we get all the cards out. And let's get our Witch Oracle card, which is woman in total control of herself with a Luteal Phase. The Bard of Truth, and we'll give her a top because YouTube is weird about that. And Alchemy of the Spirit Oracle. The Squirrel. Okay, let me make sure everything is in frame here and move stuff around. You know, I'm pretty sure that the Bard of Truth came out in the last series too. I don't know where. I just remember seeing the card. And also, I'm pretty sure the Oracle card that came out in the No. Yeah. The Ovulation video, is that the last one that I did? I'm pretty sure I've seen that one before too. So it is just interesting to me, a deck that has like 50 plus cards, and the same cards come out. What are the odds? I don't know. I just think that's cool. Like, I just think that's a cool, like, thing about tarot and doing readings. And what I also love too is that the Four of Pentacles came out in the menstrual cycle, or the menstrual phase video. And what I love, I'm just going to tell you all of the things that I love about tarot, and also too, just I'm so grateful that I was guided to do readings around these phases or this cycle, because every single one has been so perfectly aligned with the phase that we're talking about and the themes that we're talking about. And you see the cards, like, they come out I don't choose them. So anyway, very cool. And we start with the cervix card. And the cervix is, because I was looking it up, I'm by no means an expert on any of this, but I love the opportunity though to read about, like, because otherwise I honestly probably wouldn't. And also, I didn't even become aware of the menstrual cycle, or that there were different phases, or that there were hormonal changes, or anything, until I was 30 years old. And a man told me. I just like, that's what it was. And I used to have like terrible PMS, like borderline PMDD. This was also a man that was a huge part of my healing journey, like the beginning of my healing journey. And I don't even remember how we even started talking about this, but I'm pretty sure he probably mentioned at one point about phases or cycles or hormones. And I was like, what? And then he literally like printed me off diagrams or whatever, like just showing the hormone fluctuations and the cycles. And then I started to track my cycle at that point. And at that point, I was strictly like clockwork, every 28 days. And then I made my like biggest and probably only, I don't want to say, mistake and or regret was that I got an IUD I think I had it for like maybe 10 months, and my cycle has never been the same. And it's more that I regret my reason for doing that more so than, I don't know, I do hate the reason why I did it. And it is what it is, I don't know. But anyway, tangent, but the cervix is a boundary between our uterus and our vagina. So I love that we're talking luteal phase, we're talking boundaries, we're talking what's being tolerated, or what's not working, or where is irritation popping up, crossing T's, dotting I's, slowing down and checking in with our goals versus, the actions and the intentions that we have, and how are those things lining up? Do we need to make any tweaks and changes? Even with irritation, where is that coming from? And what can be done about it? So, the cervix card says, I know what is best for me. Acting as a sacred boundary and gateway, the cervix protects the sanctum of the womb space. Located at the end of the vaginal canal, it shifts position and shape throughout the hormone cycle, expanding, contracting, releasing fluids, and adjusting as needed to the sacred body's energetic experience. This threshold invites you to acknowledge your boundaries and edges of comfort. It is time to consider the relationships, contracts, and connections in your life. Find clarity around who and what is rooted in integrity and where your trust has been earned or broken. With this comes the balancing act between safely de-arming the blockades constructed from fear or trauma and empowering your own discernment. This process is slow and steady, no need to rush. Allow yourself the time and space to connect with the wisdom of this inner boundary and apply its guidance to your experience. There's a journal prompt that says, where in my life and with whom do I need more or fewer boundaries? Then the return to source card says, letting go allows me to begin anew. Completions and endings hold a unique energy. As the final stage in the never-ending cycle of life, death is the last letting go of a life experience. This is the process that brings any creative endeavor to a close. After a time of inspiration, growth, and sharing your gifts, you are being asked to let go of that which has run its course. If something has lost its vital force, but you have kept holding on to it, now is the time to bless the disconnect from it. Give it a proper celebration and burial. Burial. The magic of this stage lies in keeping the faith and belief that in death we return to source. A new conception, pregnancy, and birth awaits you. You are opening up a portal of new and vibrant endeavors. By releasing what has fulfilled its purpose, you can rest and look forward to fresh possibilities. But right now, you must fully acknowledge the conclusion of this present adventure with gratitude and reverence, and then disengage to honor the ever ongoing cyclical process. And again, like what I love about this is that, the luteal phase is what is preparing us for the menstrual phase, which is the release, the shedding, the letting go. This is, preparation of what is it that needs to be. I just got this image in my head of like put through the shredder. It's like gathering up all these documents that maybe you've been holding on to, or just, haven't quite gotten around to addressing yet. And maybe that is in part because they are sensitive and you don't want to just throw them away. They need to be handled differently, such as being shredded. And so this phase of boundaries, and again, even checking in with the boundaries that you currently do have. And, of course, boundaries are for us. It's for our peace. Like, a boundary isn't to control or decide what other people do, right? Because we can't control what other people do. But they are for us to decide, is that behavior or their direction aligned with ours? Like an example that I saw was the difference in saying to somebody, stop yelling. That's trying to control their behavior by setting that boundary, right? Like we're thinking it's a boundary by saying, stop yelling at me or stop yelling in general, versus if you yell, I'm leaving the conversation or I'm leaving the room or I'm leaving, the situation. That's a boundary that protects ourselves and our well-being, because we are in control of the spaces that we're in. We are in control of how we engage with people. We can't control how other people engage with us, but we can say, I'm not comfortable with that form of communication, or if you're going to yell, then I'm going to excuse myself, just as an example, right, for boundaries. And I also love that there's this invitation to, again, just be checking in with those established boundaries already, and even recognizing where there could be boundaries that need to be set up, especially as we expand and contract and change. And, this whole series of readings have been, and we're going to read about this return to source card as well. Did I already read it? I did already. Hello? I did already read it. I've already forgotten. Because, we have been talking about shedding layers and returning back to our true selves. And also when we think about inner child healing and reparenting ourselves. When we were children, first of all, we didn't even know what a boundary was. Also, how many times were our boundaries totally just dismissed because an adult wanted a hug or you were told to give an adult a hug and your discomfort went unrecognized or it was dismissed and you were like kind of forced into like giving a stranger or somebody that you maybe didn't know, or you just weren't in the mood, or you just didn't want to be hugged or touched or whatever, right? And again, we're forced to do that. Also forced to do that by people who didn't have very good boundaries themselves and probably didn't believe that setting boundaries, or maybe even thought that setting boundaries was rude or selfish. So part of reparenting ourselves and returning back to our source is recognizing that inner child, that part of us where our boundaries, where maybe that we didn't recognize we had a boundary or wanted to have a boundary. It is establishing those boundaries now because you're an adult now. You can take care of that part of you, that inner child, whatever age is, right? I mean, there's multiple. And then also even realize that it's not selfish. And if you kind of feel that ping coming through of fear or doubt or shame, even maybe, or guilt around setting a boundary, that is great information to observe. Where is it coming from? Is it your mom? Is it your dad? Is it your grandma? Is it a teacher, religious leader, like whatever it is, right? Like who is that voice that is informing the shame or the guilt around setting a boundary? And then also, of course, like remembering that boundaries are for you, not for other people. It's interesting, this Knight of Wands and the Devil card. The book talks about this Knight of Wands as being like impulsive and spontaneous, but in a negative way, in a effort to temper any discomfort. And in the ovulation video, we were talking about discomfort. And that has also like been a theme that has been coming up throughout these readings as well. Let me read. It says, a woman charges forward on her horse with speed, impatient to reach her destination. She has no saddle, suggesting lack of preparation and stability. The Knight of Wands is about your restlessness and desire to have things done immediately. It asks you to think before you act instead of charging blindly into new opportunities. Although spontaneity has a place and your enthusiasm will ensure that you continue to move forward, right now you will benefit from careful consideration and measured action. And the Devil card, which is the card that comes after Temperance, and I can't even remember where I said it about tempering something. But this says, and this is why I also love, since we're just sharing all the things that I love. This is why I love reading from guidebooks, because it adds nuance. I love hearing other people's perspectives on cards. It's also, anytime I also just have a feeling of reading from a guidebook, it's like so perfect. So anyway, the Devil is about confronting the darker side of your personality. You may be acting out selfish wants and desires without considering the lasting effects. favoring instant gratification over long-term fulfillment. Think about how you can change your behavior in order to respect yourself more in the future. This is also a good time to contemplate the traits you have that can get you into trouble or make you act in ways that have a negative impact. Think about the roots and causes of those traits, bringing them to the surface so that you can work on them for the future. So, wherever there is in your life where you want to be impulsive or spontaneous or just charge ahead without much of a structure or plan, or you just know you want to get from here to here, and however that needs to come about, because also like with the devil card, it does talk about toxic behaviors, right? I mean, it was talking about just kind of checking in with yourself and negative sides of the personality, which, you know, is more of like the shadow side, right? Because that's where our wounds live, and that's where the devil card energy, not the actual, you know, not the biblical devil, but our tendencies to manipulate, or our tendencies to barrel forward, step on toes, charge ahead, not consider, either the consequences for ourselves or even people around us. I also keep going back, I just keep going back to looking at the cervix card and the return to source, and that there's like a circle in both of them. And also how over here we have pentacles, so we have the circles over there, but even just about like passageways and portals and process and the journey as well. And especially how we do have, when we have a point A and a point B, we're not, it's the middle part that causes the discomfort. Like it's that journey. And I've mentioned this in another reading. Also, that's the plot in the middle, but we want to skip over that. We just want to get from point A to point B. We just want to pack up our car with, the essentials, and we want what we want, and we're done with what we're done with, and it's maybe taking too long, or even, the fear around the dream not materializing, or even that our wants and needs not being met, and we have to do it ourselves. And this is just another period of my life where, I have to just do it. And sometimes, that's blowing up our lives. Like that's not, there maybe was like a time and a place for that. And maybe that time and that place, like that's what you needed to do. That might have been a survival tactic as well. But this reading, especially these two cards here at the beginning, are like, no. And maybe it is a matter of boundaries. And even, considering boundaries from a perspective of them, boundaries being for you and, the spaces that you engage with or that you show up in, the behaviors, the conversations, the what have you, And it could be a lack of boundaries that is fueling this Knight of Wands and Devil card, especially this Ace of Cups in the reverse. Let's read about this Bard, the Bard of Truth, which is number 22. The Bard of Truth says, self-deprecation, deep modesty, self-doubt. These are the results of living in fear of judgment, caged in a system that judges women for speaking out and standing true. Our lives are not our own as long as we fear being transparent. When we allow ourselves to shrink with fear of being judged or shamed for speaking up, or standing out from the status quo, we have lost the very essence of what makes us feel most alive, our authenticity. Our authenticity is our practical magic. Our key, our truth is key to our resilience, our radiance, our confidence. It is connected to our grace like the swan, and also to our heart's music. And like a sweet melody, it is a prime recovery tool when sad, overwhelmed, anxious, or depressed. It is our greatest asset in maintaining our vibe and attracting our tribe. Without it, we feel cut off from our joy and wonder and our sense of connection. Speak up, speak out, speak true. You may not be able to see it in this card. You know, actually, before I go there, well, because I just looked at the Page of Pentacles. Okay, here's what's going on in my mind. The Devil is wearing a sheer dress. The Bard of Truth is wearing a sheer dress. And again, you may not be able to tell. And so is the Page of Pentacles. And another thing that has been coming up in these readings that I've mentioned twice at least that I can remember is that nudity and the vulnerability around that. Like I said in one of the readings, I don't know why I see nudity as vulnerability. And then I was like, oh, it's like literally because we're naked. And it doesn't have to be like physically naked. I'm not saying that, but it is like being vulnerable, and being authentic is very vulnerable because it's without our masks that we have perfected over how many years. It's without the identities that we have created around our conditioning, around the education or the information that we had access to, around the experiences that we had. And a lot of this was formed when we were literally children. So now being an adult and going through this process of shedding the layers and having an awareness that there are even multiple layers, and also even having an awareness of where, when you were younger, you needed a boundary and just couldn't, right? Like it was not an option for you. So now you're having to do that as an adult. But not only that, now you have to also deconstruct all of the beliefs and systems and even your understanding of what a fucking boundary is. And it is a lot of vulnerability, and it is a lot of literally like shedding identities, skin, if you will, and being naked, hypothetically or literally. And I love that every single card in this reading has the vulnerability of the nudity under the sheer dress, but even like the boundary of having the dress on. Like I kind of want to find a sheer nightgown or something like for myself now. Actually, I might actually do that like after. Because it's like there's an acceptance there and a love for ourselves, for our bodies, for our vessels. It's also like allowing yourself to be vulnerable, to show your true self. However, still protecting yourself with the boundary of the fabric. The Ace of Cups in the reverse talks about depletion, trying to pour from an empty cup, block in the heart chakra, and even there's a lot of purple on this card. more so. I mean, there's some green with the, I think those might be lily or lotuses, and purple, violet, or indigo. That's third eye and crown chakra. So, this Knight of Wands and this devil energy, like, how is that influencing your, maybe even like your understanding or message, like your intuition is trying to give you? I would say if you have a compulsion or an impulse to move quickly, like in this Knight of Wands, to relieve discomfort, or even again like to manipulate or to get it done, however, which way, I would say that's not intuition. That is shadow. That's fear. That's doubt. That's, conditioning. Also, because there are lotuses on this card and the dove, both of those speak to purity, peace, awakening. And especially because lotuses root in murky, muddy pond water, and they have to grow their way through that, and then they break the surface and they unfold into these beautiful flowers. And again, like I was talking about, point A to point B, we want to root and then we want to bloom on the surface. We don't consider that path through the murky, muddy water, right? That's kind of like this Knight of Wands and the devil is like trying to jump past that. And maybe with this Bard of Truth card, we're perceiving that middle space, the murky water that we're in, that is being perceived from a lens of fear, doubt, or I'm above that, or I shouldn't have to go through that, or something, right? Like, even if you're not necessarily consciously thinking of it that way, like, I do wonder if you got quiet and I want to say even honest with yourself, like if you would hear some of that. That is the devil energy talking. Because again, like that middle point, the muddy water, the growth, the journey is what people are more interested in. Like, when you talk to somebody, when you try to get into a deep conversation, you're not necessarily like, you might hear about point A and then point B, but you're like, dude, how did you get from point A to point B? What was that journey like? And what if somebody was like, oh, I just went from point A to point B. There was nothing in the middle. Huh? That's where the juice is. Like, that's where the growth is. And that's where a lot of us are. So imagine if somebody was like, oh, there wasn't that. And also I just kind of feel, because I know that there are people like that out there, and it's like all that it necessarily or unnecessarily does is create like shame in people. Like, man, I can't get myself from point A to point B without being kind of, stuck in the discomfort of the middle. They must be better than me, or they must be, but all they're doing is showing the Knight of Wands and the devil energy. So I would just really check in with yourself. Again, like I feel like this whole message has just been check in with yourself, which also is luteal phase, right? It's slowing down. It is checking in with yourself. It is checking your intentions, the actions that you're taking in and why you're taking them, the thoughts that you have around them. Also, with the Ace of Cups in the reverse, I would also pay particular attention to how you are taking care of yourself and how you are filling your own cup. These five streams of water are our five senses. And, the cup or the chalice being our body, our vessel that houses all of these different sensations. So I would be sure to check in with that and make sure that you are keeping your cup full. Even the color similarities between the Return to Source card and the Ace of Cups. Letting go allows me to begin anew. I mean, aces are new, but with it being in the reverse, it's kind of like, where are we potentially struggling to let go? Where are we giving too much? Where are we pouring from an empty cup? And also, where in this Knight of Wands, even the Bard of Truth and the Devil card, are there emotions attached to actions or perceptions that we can also release? Because I also think that in doing so, it creates more trust for yourself, but also trust in your path. Or, it could be trust in God, source, divine, if you believe in a higher power. Just trusting your own intuition and your own, guidance that you are receiving from your third eye or your crown chakra. The Four of Pentacles came out in the menstrual cycle video. I think I already said that. And I do halfway wonder if it coming out here again in this position, because I believe it came out first in the menstrual cycle video. This is what the book says. A woman sits alone holding 4 pentacles. Around her are jewels and coins, and in the distance is her town, which she has left behind. She has sacrificed community and friendship for material gain. The appearance of the 4 of Pentacles asks you to take a look at your relationship with money. You are focused on and driven by creating and accumulating wealth, making sure it isn't at the expense of other important parts of your life. Consider whether you are making enough time for relaxing, friendships, relationships, hobbies, and health. Think about how you can make your money work for you by investing wisely to free up more time for other things. But I just wonder if there is fear around this outcome or this way of being, because this card does talk about budgeting, holding on too tight. This is also the card that comes before the 5 of Pentacles. The 5 of Pentacles is lack and scarcity. This is where the lack and scarcity mindset or behavior begins, by believing there isn't enough, by starting to act as though money you spend is not going to be replaced. And I get it. I feel like I'm here. I also feel like that it is very traumatic to be in poverty, or to not have your needs be met because of a lack of access to resources or money. Especially too if you don't have outside help. And we can all see the economy of the United States. It is fucking terrible and getting worse by the day. And it's that delicate dance between wanting to use your resources, and resources do include money, materials at your disposal to invest in yourself, in your future. But then also having to consider, like, I also need to make sure that I have food and shelter and of transportation and, you know, prescriptions if you're on, you know, any type of medicine or something, you know. And what I love, I also love that I have said that so many times in this reading. I should tally actually how many times I say that. I don't know how you do that, like in a video, and I don't know if I have the patience to do that, but um, I might be able to at least just like search for all of the times that I say the word love, and I'll just maybe put that at the end of the reading or something. Like very basic, you know, like editing skills. So, yeah, but it's like as far as like creating an actual tally, I don't really know if I, like I said, like if I have the patience. But what I love is that the Page of Pentacles is next. And let me read from the book what the Page of Pentacles says. In a field full of flowers stands a woman in a long flowing dress. She looks up at the glowing pentacle she holds between her hands. The plants and trees signify abundance, while the mountains in the distance allude to difficulties which may be faced in the future. The Page of Pentacles symbolizes new beginnings in the material world. Perhaps you have a new job opportunity or business idea that can help you out financially, and it is up to you to make the most of it. This card asks you to look at money in a positive and wholesome way. Creating what you want will take focus and the ability to work hard, both of which you possess. Now is the time to start bringing your dreams into fruition and manifesting your heart's desire. There is a part of me that has a hard time with what I'm going to say. But it's also, you know, it's also something that I have a current awareness around, and I am trying to like change my own perspective. The universe provides. And there is an abundance of everything. There is enough for everybody. There's more than enough for everybody. But conditioning, the powers that be, propaganda, marketing, blah, blah, blah. I mean, literally from the beginning of time, speaking of even, you know, boundaries and speaking of, you know, when we were children, we are led to believe that there isn't enough, or that not everybody succeeds, or even to maybe that you have to struggle in order to receive said abundance, or hustle, or even, you know, step on toes, be in this Knight of Wands and Devil energy to get what you want, right? And I truly believe that this message, this reading is saying, all you have to do is be you. Like, you are inherently worthy. You are inherently abundant simply because like you are here. You exist. And any limiting belief or anything that says something different is just conditioning. And what I also absolutely love is that the Ace of Pentacles was at the bottom of the deck. They're holding the Ace of Pentacles in their hand. So there is this opportunity here. Before we get to the Ace of Pentacles, I want to read about this squirrel card. Spirit of Courage. If you are afraid, then do it with fear. The spirit of the squirrel calls for courage. Listen to your intuition and move with caution. But don't let fear freeze you. Fear is a great master, so be thankful for the warnings it sends you, but always lead with the bravery of your heart. If you've been dwelling in monotony, a new adventure is exactly what you need to turn ordinary into extraordinary. It may be a trip, a new job, or even a new hobby, but move away from routine and dare to try something new. It doesn't need to be something big. Any little change you bring into your life can spark a little joy in your soul. Great treasures await you. Confidently go after the magic you deserve, but don't let excitement cloud your reasoning. Don't act on impulse and put yourself in dangerous situations. Lead with an adventurous heart but a cautious mind. That's like literally the light side, or maybe the truth side of the Knight of Wands. And the impulse and restless, spontaneity is more of like the shadow side of the Knight of Wands. Now, it did like kind of come out reverse. I'm going to read the in balance and out of balance messages. Out of balance says putting yourself in danger, acting on impulse, taking uncalculated risks, feeling bored, being frozen by fear. In balance, feeling courageous, feeling adventurous, experiencing excitement, being curious, daring. And even, with this Ace of Pentacles, right, there's this hand coming out of nowhere, right? Like there's this opportunity that is going to present itself. And I love that this path is through this garden here. It's seeing the beauty in your journey, even stopping to smell the roses. I love that there's even flowers in this Page of Pentacles card. I think it is really like at the root of it, believing that you are abundant, believing that abundance is inherent for you, and all or anything that doubts that, or anything that fears that, or also anything that wants to manipulate that is shadow, is ego, is wounding. We have the Hermit behind the Ace of Pentacles, and then we have the Two of Pentacles on the other side of that, the High Priestess, which is another number 2. We have 22 here, we have 2 here, we have 2 aces. The Page of Pentacles is holding the Ace of Pentacles. The Hermit is about introspection, healing. It's following your own unique path, and it's also trusting yourself in order to do so. Again, with the purples and the indigos and the violets. Two of Pentacles is about restoring balance, and also this infinity symbol, like our responsibilities, life, like things, it's never ending, and we learn to manage it. And whatever it is that is coming in. And I also love that on the other side of this Ace of Cups is all of this earth energy. I mean, the Devil is Capricorn. Saturn is retrograde right now in Aries and will be until December. So wherever Aries is for you, it could be a really good time to reflect on that area of life. The Hermit is Virgo. The High Priestess is Cancer or Pisces. I also love how, there's this crazy, like the ocean is going nuts back there, or the water, big waves, and they're safe on land and even high ground, and maintaining balance as well while there's craziness going on around them. So even, being able to ground your emotions, being able to even like navigate your emotional landscape in a practical way. The High Priestess is our direct connection to Source, God, divine, or your higher self, or your intuition. Of course, take it how it resonates. And pomegranates in the tarot represent abundance, fertility. And fertility in tarot talks about the ability to create. Everybody has that ability. That's not, everybody has the ability to create something from their own image, to birth something into their lives, whether that is a mindset, whether that is a project, a job, a relationship. I like all of these eyes back here. It feels like protection, and even future sight, or even, like third eye. Beautiful, beautiful. Oh, these have been These have been so amazing. Again, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for allowing me to pull cards for you. And if these messages do resonate with you and you want to go deeper for yourself, I'll have my email in the description. I would love to pull cards for you. Beautiful. Okay. Bye.